This has been a year like no other, and while we have all learned to make virtual work, I cannot wait to be with you in person and live, not recorded. Thank you, Zeph, and thank you, all of you. Every educator, every school staffer, all your families who've worked to get us through this, a year that's truly like no other. Every one of you deserve an individual thank you, particularly the local leaders who have had to navigate a pandemic and navigate Texas, particularly your governor's decision to go reckless on steroids. There's enough to do to govern Texas in a pandemic, through a snowstorm that gutted the electric grid, and much less the myriad of issues that governors are supposed to work on. But Greg Abbott has decided that culture wars, division, and discarding democracy and discarding accurate history are more important than simply helping people have access to the American dream. Laughter aside, it puts so much pressure on all of you, the people who have had to fight forward and go to work every day to take care of your kids and yourselves and your communities. I know you're exhausted, but please know you're also appreciated. This year has been a crucible in so many ways. We've faced crisis after crisis, from the pandemic to attacks on our democracy to a long overdue reckoning with racism. You've been through it these last 16 months. Remote, hybrid, in-person, synchronous, asynchronous. Each one of it, and each one of these modalities with its challenges. And each challenge you met. But we all carry the scars of what we've been through. Some of us lost loved ones. Some of us got sick ourselves. Many of you struggled with the demands of teaching while keeping your own children, helping them with their schoolwork. All of us, I think it's safe to say, have been really stressed. For nearly a year and a half, you have dug deep to find new ways to keep students connected, technically and emotionally. Many of you have also dealt with students who have food and housing insecurity. And it's not only those of us who are watching this virtually, our members are spent. The RAND Corporation, in a survey that they worked on with AFT and NEA, found that 78% of public school teachers reported experiencing frequent job-related stress. Excuse me. Almost twice as many as most other working adults during the pandemic. And teachers were almost 3 times as likely to experience symptoms of depression as the general population, the general adult population. So throughout this all, AFT Texas has worked harder than ever to make sure your communities and your students would reemerge on the other side of this, standing up for safe and equitable school opening, driven by science, not by ideology, using the power of your union to help meet the needs of your kids and of our colleagues. And frankly, since I've been double vaxxed and out and about, and I've visited some of you. I visited Socorro, AFT, and El Paso not too long ago. I saw how Socorro worked with their district to develop a reopening plan that was rooted in the CDC guidelines. I saw how Socorro worked with local health officials to monitor hospitalization rates and secure waivers for in-person instruction from the Texas Education Agency during COVID surges. Not an easy task in Texas. Plus, in Socorro and in El Paso, I watched both locals do incredible work to elect or to keep school board candidates who truly believe in the value of public schooling. In Houston, members of HFT and HESP collaborate with the district and have continued to do so, regardless of the strains and all the other issues that happen in Houston, to distribute vaccines, even after the state initially refused to prioritize teachers and school staff. It was only after Joe Biden required it that the state followed through with it. And in Houston, this union, your union, or unions, also put together a partnership with Brighter Bites to get food to families that need it. Just basic life-saving stuff, and fruits and vegetables, and I was honored to be able to distribute one day. And then there were the citizenship clinics for people trying to navigate that process. Plus, in Houston, winning this year consultation, which allows teachers and school employees to have a real voice in what happens in their schools and in their lives. You know, the bread and butter stuff, wages, benefits, working conditions. Pretty incredible in a year like this. So obviously, we want to do more than just reemerge on the other side of multiple crises. We, all of us, want a more inclusive, more equitable, safer world for our kids, our members, and our communities. We want more than that. We want the freedom to thrive. And that's why on May 13th, I gave a speech to lay out a plan not just for reopening, but for recovery and reimagining our schools. A recovery that would include the emotional and the academic and the social supports that we need for our kids in our schools, community schools, guidance counselors, school nurses, from making sure school is a safe and welcoming place for any child, to fighting for the better wages and decent retirement income for all of our members. All of this is the heart of what we do, whether it's in Texas or New York, whether it's in Washington State or Florida. So, if I had given this speech a couple years ago, I would say, and then we also have to fight the Trump administration. But fortunately, as you know, we have an administration who values education, who puts the people who keep schools running, the frontline providers, the front lines, the emergency workers of COVID, they put them at the front of the line. That's who the Biden-Harris administration is. They are our partner. Yes, Greg Abbott has become and is a problem, but because we have the White House, and the White House has our backs, it has really been a way of helping us navigate this pandemic and helping us try to build a safer, more just world and an economy that works for everyone. You know your union has your back, but Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have ours. They are deeply invested in helping build back better, helping Americans access opportunities to thrive, from investing in our public schools and families, to preserving our democracy, to furthering civil and human rights, to making sure more of us can access a decent job with health care and good retirement. Frankly, it's the most pro-union administration that we've ever had, including FDR. This administration and our allies in Congress were able to pass the landmark American Rescue Plan. You know how much we fought for the Heroes Bill. You helped us over and over again, months after months. But then in March, after Joe Biden was elected, we got the American Rescue Plan, which is so much more than a relief bill. The The child tax credit, which most working and middle-class Americans are going to start getting this month, cuts child poverty nearly in half. They expanded unemployment insurance to make sure there was a cushion for those who are unemployed. They brought unprecedented economic assistance to pensioners, making sure that pension plans, union pension plans, didn't go broke. They helped make sure that people who are unemployed had health care. And for Texas schools alone, it meant $12.4 billion for academic, social, and emotional support. Anything could be paid for that would help kids recover. And that includes $250 million for after-school and summer enrichment programs and $80 million for the wraparound services to support kids experiencing homelessness and experiencing other kinds of issues. You know how important that is. Look at what Austin has tried to do for all these years on community schools. It also provided money for the safety, the layered mitigation, the mass, should I say, testing, and vaccines. This is the kind of health, academic, social, and emotional support our kids are going to need and we're going to need. And as we kept saying over and over again since April 2020, give us the science guardrails and the resources, and we will be able to be back in in-person education. Safety to us was about getting back in, not an obstacle to doing in-school instruction. And while the Trump administration didn't listen, and while you've had such a hard time with the Abbott administration, the Biden administration did. And they have provided, at least in the short term, the tools and resources to do all of this. Look, one of the major things we have learned from this pandemic, and frankly, I think the right wing is pretty upset about this, is it's not just that students need in-person schoolings. Communities need our schools to be open too. Our schools need to be the center of communities. They need to be places where parents want to send their kids, where educators want to work, and where kids thrive. And the president is doing more than just resting on the laurels of the American Rescue Plan. You saw in the last few days that there's a bipartisan agreement on infrastructure, but there's also a reconciliation plan that will hopefully have a very robust jobs program, infrastructure program, and the families plan that President Biden has wanted, including 2 more years of early childhood education and 2 more years of higher education. And then there's his 2022 budget, which helps us put working families and good public services at the center of rebuilding our communities, growing our economy, and offering every American an opportunity to build a better life. This administration is making a dedicated investment, is trying to make good on its promise that good public schools, safe communities, accessible health care, affordable higher education are public goods that must be available to everyone in America. And we're helping them in every way we can. And they're doing whatever they can do through executive order, things like extending Title IX to protect trans kids, extending Title VII to protect LGBTQ rights at work, and recognizing Juneteenth as a national holiday, which, by the way, the entire Congress did. I like saying all that stuff because I love this week. Juneteenth was Saturday, Father's Day was Sunday, and the entire month is Pride Month. Unions have always been mechanisms for justice, and our work this year is no exception. Our work has been making sure every family across the country, every family in Texas, every member we have can save a little bit for a family vacation, can have food and healthcare security, can navigate a world knowing they won't be discriminated against for who they are, what religion they, follow or not follow, and who they love or where they live. But as I said, here in Texas, Greg Abbott and his friends or colleagues in the legislature are hell-bent on making that harder. He's not looking out for the good of the many, and he's not standing up for regular folks. I think he's trying to be a Trump acolyte to score political points. Make no mistake, when those powers that be in Texas want to limit democracy and education about democracy and about history, all of us suffer. But you, the professionals in the classroom, and the people who use your expertise and your collective power for good, I know you know better. I've had a bunch of conversations with many of you about what the governor is doing with regard to teaching and learning in our classrooms. Because this is what we know, that no matter our color, our background, our zip code, we want our kids to have an education that imparts honesty about who we are, integrity in how we treat others, and courage to do what's right. We want to raise critical thinkers who can hear the truth and draw their own conclusions based on those facts and diverse perspectives. So the governor's bill, HB 3979, is nothing more than an effort to limit your ability to educate children. And he and the Texas legislators who promote it, they've taken a term, critical race theory, which is a legal theory taught in law schools, not high schools, and taught to help people understand whether systemic racism exists, and they've weaponized it. They're bullying teachers and trying to stop us from teaching kids to think and understand history. I think they're just trying to raise the temperature on race relations to advance their own political agenda. I've heard Steve Bannon say this is his agenda to get suburban moms back. It's stultifying. It's terrible because it's so undermining of what we need to do. Teaching America's history requires considering all the facts available to us, including those that are uncomfortable, like the history of enslavement and discrimination towards people of color and people perceived as different. Teaching history or teaching requires us to help our students discern fact from fiction and reach an opinion or conclusion based on that, rather than ignoring facts or outright banning them, which Governor Abbott did by signing HB 3979 into law. Look, I'm a history teacher, and I'm pretty passionate about this because this does a great disservice to our students and to our country. And informed citizenry is necessary for democracy to thrive. Did you hear, by the way, what General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, said in his testimony the other day? He told the GOP congressman who criticized him that about the military, he said, the military isn't woke. The military wants to understand white rage and figure out how January 6th could ever happen in America. That struck me. It reminded me that those folks don't just want to cancel teaching history. They want to cancel any discussion or understanding about democracy. They think it's the only way they can win. And now you see that playing out again in Texas. Greg Abbott has called a special session on July 8th, likely to consider SB 7, the sweeping attack on democracy that limits access to the polls and whose votes get counted. A bill that, as you all know, expired in the regular session after the Democrats walked off the floor. I just wonder, with each of these things, what is the GOP leadership afraid of? Why are they afraid of education and democracy? Why are they trying to limit people's voices and people's freedoms? Why? For someone like Governor Abbott, who talks so much about loving freedom and hating cancel culture, he and many in your legislature don't hesitate to cancel the freedoms he doesn't like, or to cancel history for that matter. But look, we will continue to fight back with an agenda about freedom and about opportunity and justice, the freedom to thrive. And we'll fight back in all the ways we know, through legislation, through activism in our schools, on our streets, in ways that we lift the voices of all people. I know we're on the right side of this fight. I also know for every lawmaker or school board member that wants to trample on our democracy, wants to stop us from teaching and understanding our history, there's a teacher in this union that wants to stand up to that. And I want you to know your national union is working now on how to stand up and defend and protect everyone individually who will try to stand up for our students and for ourselves to teach honest history and to make sure our students are the critical thinkers they need to be prepared for life, career, college, and civic participation. And if this becomes the Scopes trial of this generation, so be it. I'll end where I started, by thanking you. We all have our stories and our struggles from this year. Doing your job may be the hardest thing you dealt with this year. And now we have next year. And yet you did it. You dug in and you did the best you could. Some of us lost a loved one to COVID. Many of us lost something during this grueling year. Many of us got sick ourselves. No one's life has been unchanged. But we're here, and we got through it together. And yes, we have another fight ahead of us, the fight for our dignity and respect, the fight for the freedom to teach, the fight to educate our kids. But no, your union is there with you every step of the way, and we'll get through this together, because together we can accomplish more than we ever can do alone. And together there will be a more inclusive, more equitable world on the other side. Thanks a lot, and have a great convention.